One last time from the banks of the Charles River. This is the Ivy League Digital Network. Bill Spalding, glad to be with you. Our final race of the day, a day that saw the Harvard lightweight men win the Haynes Cup over Navy, a day that saw the Yale women look very impressive in their win over USC and the Radcliffe heavyweights, and a day that has already seen the Radcliffe lightweights win the Class of '99 Cup with a varsity 8 win over Princeton, and then a win at second varsity. We'll wrap up with a third varsity lightweight race between Radcliffe and Princeton. Radcliffe looking to sweep the Tigers of Princeton on the day. Here is the lineup for the third varsity race. The coxswain is Maria Stoika. Ellie Bernstein is the stroke. Sarah Lankin in seat 7. Then it's Gretchen Doherty in seat 6. Allison Oliva in seat 5. Emily Moya rowing her first ever 2K race in seat 4. Margaret Irwin in seat 3. Gina Cusing in seat 2. And Fiona Fitzgerald in seat 1. Moya, one of the Harvard walk-ons, learned how to row in the fall. You do see that, especially once you get to the third or fourth varsity boats. Oftentimes you get some novices or some new rowers who were likely athletes who played other sports at the high school level, got to college, and still wanted to compete, and decided to walk onto the rowing club. Radcliffe has already improved its record to 4-2 today with the win at first varsity over Princeton. Win at second varsity as well, looking to sweep the day with a win here at third varsity. Heading into Eastern Sprints next week. One of the biggest races on the calendar in women's lightweight rowing, the Eastern Sprints next week, and we'll see how Radcliffe fares this year. They were the second place finishers last season. Finished third overall at the IRA National Championships. Hands in the air for both coxswains as they look for alignment here. Waiting for the green flag from our official. The white flag is up. We have alignment. And here we go. Final race of the day, third varsity. Radcliffe in the black on your bottom screen. Princeton on the top of your screen in the orange. Well, this is a very close start. Not much separation either way in the first few strokes in the third race between Princeton and Radcliffe. Princeton looks like they've taken a seat very early on here. Now Radcliffe's come back to take his seat going the other direction 30 seconds into this race. Radcliffe's pulled 2 and now 3 seats ahead. Great response to the early jab from Princeton. A counterpunch here from Radcliffe to pull ahead now by 4 seats. Now a 7-seat lead and just ballooning for Radcliffe. They turned that around very quickly. They were originally 1 seat behind after the first couple of punches, and since then, they have gone to take a full-length lead, trying to complete the sweep for the Radcliffe black and white today, already with wins at first varsity and second varsity. Length lead, and soon to be open water if this pace continues for Radcliffe. Fire out of the opening 400 meters, coming to the 500-meter mark. Unofficial time right now at 1:35 as Radcliffe keeps pounding forward, laying into the lumber. They lead by open water. That's how you make a statement early. Those strong initial strokes, build the lead, and then settle into your rhythm. And with each stroke here, Radcliffe is gaining more and more ground on Princeton. Oftentimes here at the Charles, throughout the course of the day, you see the wind pick up and get stronger and stronger. That's why sometimes the orders go that teams that are racing at 7 a.m. will send their first varsity boats out at 7. Well, today we haven't seen the wind really increase. We've been lucky. Even though it's cold and a little bit wet, the wind has been really manageable. It's kept the river pretty calm, and the wind that there has been a tailwind for these rowers as Radcliffe has open water and about a 2-length lead back to Princeton. Eastern Sprints next week, and the IRA National Championships down the road ahead for both of these teams, Princeton and Radcliffe. It'll be Radcliffe, though, going in with all kinds of momentum after wins at 1V and 2V, and barring some major comeback from Princeton here, a win at 3rd V as well for Radcliffe. Get a close-up look at that Radcliffe boat. Mentioned Emily Moya's first ever 2000 today for Radcliffe. Learned how to row back in the fall, and she has moved up into the 3rd boat. Heading underneath the bridge. 1,000 meters in at the midway point, Radcliffe has about a 3-length lead back to Princeton. 3 minutes, 40 seconds, your unofficial split time through the opening 1,000. Tigers trying to stay in unison, pull themselves back into it a bit as you look at Princeton come underneath the bridge. Technique looks good, very quiet strokes, not a whole lot of splash, but right now Radcliffe getting more from its strokes than Princeton is. With every Radcliffe stroke, the lead grows. Radcliffe looks very calm and quiet as well, as you watch the way they stroke along in their boat. Very little splash over. It's hardly bouncing at all in the water. Referee just making sure the Radcliffe boat stays in its lane. She looks satisfied now, so coxswain Maria Stoika made sure she got Radcliffe back where they were supposed to be. Still a 3-length lead for Radcliffe, well ahead of Princeton, on its way to a sweep of the Tigers. This is one of the biggest races of the season, especially in duels for Radcliffe against an Ivy rival in Princeton. And so far, they've passed that test with flying colors. .500 meters to go for Radcliffe on their way to a sweep of Princeton. Have about a 4-length lead now. This is the biggest blowout of the day. We saw 11 races today, and this is the largest victory for anybody on the Charles. I'm told this Princeton boat has a lot of walk-ons and novices, so still getting accustomed to rowing at this level. It's pretty close at first varsity. It's about a 7 or 8 seat win for Harvard Radcliffe. Second varsity, Radcliffe won by open water, and third varsity, they're going to win by, looks like 4 to 5, maybe even 6 lengths, depending on how they finish out this sprint. They built open water within the first couple hundred meters and just crushed Princeton from there. So we'll see where Harvard ends up in the polls after this week. They came in at 5th. Princeton was 3rd. You'd think just common sense would say you beat the number 3 team when you're the number 5 team, and there's a good chance you jump up to be the number 3 team in the next week's polls. And, of course, those polls will be important because that's part of how they seed the field for the Eastern Sprints. Just a dominant victory. 3rd varsity for Harvard. A few more strokes for Harvard Radcliffe coming home. 5 lengths at least ahead of Princeton. As the rain picks up a little bit here on the Charles River. few more strokes for Radcliffe. Keep an eye on that flag and on the clock. 7:20 and counting as Radcliffe comes home. The black and white of Radcliffe complete the sweep in a time of 7:32 flat unofficially. Princeton still with work to do to get home. Here's Princeton finishing things off. They come home around 7:57. It's a 25-second win at third varsity for the Radcliffe black and white. A good day of racing on the Charles. Been a pleasure to be with you. Quick recap of what you saw throughout the day. We saw the Harvard lightweight men's team take down Navy and Delaware at first varsity. Yale women's heavyweight beat Radcliffe and USC at first varsity. And here at the lightweight, Radcliffe takes home all three races against Princeton, winning the class of '99 Cup at the first varsity and also winning at 2V and 3V. Bill Spaulding saying so long from the Charles River. Remember, you can watch replay of this event and other live and on-demand content by visiting IvyLeagueDigitalNetwork.com. This has been a presentation of the Ivy League Digital Network.